So it's also customary at a Farbrengen to say a story. But not just a story for the sake of a story. It's story time. Press the button, it's story time. The point of the story of the Maisa is growth. What I said before, I didn't mean it as a joke, that a Farbrengen is Hasidic group therapy. The point of the Farbrengen is to grow, really. Everyone in our own way, but we have to grow. If you're not growing, you're falling. The emes. If you're not growing, both in Avodas Hashem, both in your profession, also in your profession, in your relationships, you start becoming stale. There's a Yiddish word, farjavet. You know what farjavet means? Farjavet means like new, when something becomes rusty. You become rusty, stale, old. What's the solution, Ellie? What's the solution to stay young? Let's hear. Let me hear, Mr. Chacham. You're a big Talmud Chacham. Besides being a dentist, you're a big Talmud Chacham.
How do you keep your teeth young? At least that, you're an expert.
So what do you think is the solution for staying young? What's your opinion? But Kitzer.
Flossing, brushing.
You don't want a long answer?
Yeah, no, I want a one-line answer.
You asked the wrong person there.
One of the things if I bring cuts off people. Anyway, no. So what do you think is the answer? The answer is, come in. The answer is, at least my end, there's many answers. It's a rhetorical question. Ellie. Yitzchak, what's the answer? You want to stay young? Shalom Aleichem. Hang out with young people. I'm not joking. We had in our shul in Borough Park, I live in Borough Park, my wife is right there, and we live in Borough Park for the last 27, 28 years. And in our shul, we had a person, he's already Leila Me'emes, but he was the senior, the Zaidi of the shul. Nebuch, he lost his wife like 20, 25 years before he passed on. And I'm telling you, he didn't remarry for whatever reason, but he stayed fresh and young till the end. Even smoking till the end. Anyway. He was around young people. When you hang out with young people, it's refreshing. These Bacharim here, right? Ellie, your son, this Bachar, all the Bacharim. The energy of the youth is gewaldig. The Rebbe has a letter where a parent writes to the Rebbe. The parent says, "What should I do about my wayward teen? He's not going, b'darkei aviseinu. He's not following, the script." And the Rebbe says, "You're not focusing on the maila, on the advantage of the youth. Shalom Aleichem. Sit down over here. Bring your son this place. You're not focusing on the energy. You're kvetching. What are you kvetching about? He's not doing this. She's not doing this. And I want it to be like this way." The Rebbe says the first thing you have to focus on is that there's a positivity to youthful energy. And youthful energy, it gets the person and the place riled up with activity and excitement. We talk about, I'm sure you have it here in Teaneck, in the schools, in the yeshivas, in the girls' schools, teachers who are already, seniors versus the young teachers. I'm sure it's an issue in every community. So what do you do? Oh, well, we can't have him and her teach these new teenagers of the internet age. Now it's getting to the AI age. This world is just going bonkers. I mean, what's the world going to look like in an AI age? Who knows? So we're going to have a teacher, a Mora, from 1955, 1965. They're outdated. And the answer is, In certain things, they are outdated. But nevertheless, a person with experience you can't buy such a person. And I'll tell you a story. I told you I want to tell you a story. So this is the story to support the idea. In the town where Lubavitch comes from, there was a little town called Lubavitch, Lubavitchi, Lubavitz. There were different shuls. Many of you were probably from other areas, and they didn't call it Lubavitch. They called Lubavitchi, Lubavitch, but it was all Lubavitch. So in this Lubavitch, they had a yeshiva. In fact, they're rebuilding now the exact replica of the building in Lubavitch. It's already up, most of it. But the original, of course, was decimated. Anyway, what was the chidush of a Lubavitch yeshiva? What did the Rashab, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe, Sholem Ber, he started the Lubavitch yeshiva together with his son, the Rayatz, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchok. What was their chidush? Rabbi Rafo's father and his uncles and his family, they were learning in the Lubavitch yeshivas underground in the 1920s and 30s primarily. Right, but I'm going back 1897 to 1916. Yeshiva was founded in 1897, the Lubavitch yeshiva in Lubavitch. So you're going to ask, who was the Rosh Yeshiva? Was it Reb Baruch Ber, Reb Chaim, or another great Rosh Yeshiva? And if I told you the beginning they didn't have a Rosh Yeshiva, you wouldn't believe it. They didn't. Because the Bachurim that the Rashab started, the students that Rashab started the yeshiva with, each one was a great Talmud Chacham. They didn't need a Rosh Yeshiva. Of course, they could benefit, but they themselves were already developed, 20-year-olds who had learned. But you know what they didn't have? They didn't have Hasidus. They didn't have Hashpah. They didn't know what it meant to daven. Now, what do you mean you didn't know what to daven? You take a siddur and you daven. And if you know, and you need to know Peter Shamilas, I'll know Peter Shamilas, the explanation of the words. No, we're talking about the dveikus and daven. Attachment, soul-stirring experience davening. That was the chiddush of the Chabad yeshiva in Lubavitch called Tomchei Tmimin. One of the mashpiyim that the Rashab chose was yet a chassid of the third Lubavitch Rebbe, the first Menachem Mendel, Rebbe Menachem Mendel of Lubavitch, a.k.a. the Tzemach Tzedek. Shiloh's true was Tzemach Tzedek, the famous Goin, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe. So his name was Rabbi Michoel Bliner. He had two other names he was known as, Rabbi Michoel der Alter, Rabbi Michoel the old guy, and Rabbi Michoel Nevler, and Rabbi Michoel from a city called Nevel in Ukraine. Alter, because he still came from the Tzemach Tzedek. So in the time of the Rashab, he was the senior mashpia. And his family name was Bliner. So we'll call him Reb Michoel. Reb Michoel. Okay, just for the record, I want you to hear Michoel Ader Alter, Michoel Bliner, Michoel Nevler. It's all the same person. Like, it makes a difference to us, right? Who cares? I do. Anyway. So, Reb Michoel was a Yid who was dedicated to Hashem and davening and learning, and he was appointed to Mashpia. The problem was he was blind. Now, which director of a school would appoint a blind Rebbe, in this case a blind Mashpia? It doesn't add up. Doesn't make any sense. Guess what? You think it's only today we have boys breaking into the kitchen and doing all kinds of things in yeshiva? In those days, they did the same thing. So what happened? The Bachurim, the students of Tomchei Tmimin, the Lubavitch Yeshiva, came to the Rashab. And they said to the Rashab, they came first to the Rayatz, the Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, who was the Menahel, the administrator, the spiritual administrator, who brought it to his father's attention, the Rashab. And he said, the Bacharim are saying, what are you giving us a mashpia who's blind and old and antiquated, right? An AK, right? Okay. So listen to what the Rashab said. And you're paying him a salary, a meager salary, but you're still paying a salary. So the same money you're paying to this Rabbi Michoel, you can give to a younger mashpia, right? That's the way we think today. The old people are for the boondocks, arois. The Rebbe Rashab said no. I hear your argument, and this is what. Listen to his answer. And the Rashab said, even if he doesn't teach you the Bacharim one word, even if you don't, right, you go to yeshiva, and even if this old rabbi there, Rebbe, but when you look at this Rebbe, when you look at Rabbi Michoel Alter, and you see a person who comes from Yetva Tzemach Tzedek, the 1860s and 70s, and he lived through the 1880s, the pogroms and everything else, and you see a genuine individual who's committed to Hashem 101, Lagamri, to completely, it's worth his salary, and I'm keeping him. Okay? As much as youth is such a gewaldige Zach, the energy, and we need it, there's something to be said about experience. Ellie's a dentist, right? You can get a new dentist. He's an experienced dentist. You go to an experienced person for your health. Could there be a new, out of college, out of medical school? Yeah, there are. Gewaldige Kep and the gewaldige abilities. I knew someone, Elam Emes, he was out in Cherry Hill, up right all the way at the end over there. And he had gewaldige hands. And a former Torah Das Talmud, who was his professor, said to me, we made a davening by him in his basement. He lived in Cherry Hill, not next door shul. And for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, I forget now, he asked me to come to help out with the minyan and all that. And his professor came. So he introduced me to the professor, Torah Das boy. Wasn't religious at the time. And the professor says to me, you know, this doctor that's hosting this service, he has golden hands. You know that he was deaf on one ear? Deaf on one ear. He's such a gewaldige surgeon that he did 8 hospitals in the area, in Philly and Cherry Hill, because he has golden hands. You know, so the idea of experience is very, very important. And after the next niggin, I will get to the next idea in experience, which is that a Farbrengen needs to be an experiential, an experience. It's not a lecture. It's not a shiur. You want a shiur? Go to your rabbi, go to your rav. There's shiurim. Farbrengen is not a shiur. My wife had a great uncle named Reb Mendel Futterfass. You might have heard of this chassid. He was a Jew that didn't just give lip service. He sat in jail in Siberia in the 9 years for helping other Jews get out of Russia with falsifying the passports. It's a whole story for itself. And he could have he was one of the ringleaders, so he could have gotten out right away. He didn't. Yitzchak, he waited for everyone else to get out. And by then, he was one of the last ones. They caught him, and he was penalized. So that Mendel, the Rachmei Hashem, with God's mercy, was saved. You know, he survived, and he told over so many things from his, what he learned from the people who he was with, which weren't exactly, you're a noble citizen. And Mendel, he came to his son may be well. He lives in Crown Heights. His name is Berel. Berel Futavaz, my father-in-law's cousin. So when he got to England and he heard that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, encourages people to put on tefillin. You should go and put on tefillin with Yidden. So he takes it at face value without questions. There's one problem. What language do you speak in London? Usher. English. Where did that Mendel come from? Russia. He knows Russian, Ukrainian, but English? What English? What English? He don't know any English. So how is he supposed to communicate? And he goes out to the streets of London over there, and he sees a Yid, not yet a frum Yid, and he stops him and he says, Jew. He found out that the word for a Yid is Jew. Jew. The guy says, Jew. And he takes his arm and he rolls it up and he puts on the tefillin. And if you think that's a story just of 1962 or 63 in England, I had the same thing in Marin County in Northern California when my wife and I were sent by the Rebbe Shluchim in 1984. The first Shabbos. Does anyone know about Marin County? Some of us who were a little older, in the 1970s, I think there was a documentary, and it became famous because Marin County became known as the hot tub capital of the United States. Except, what do you do in the hot tub capital? You smoke weed, and you grow your hair with a ponytail, and you raise pigs.
California?
In California. You come from the better places in California. You come from Woodland Hills. I told you you're a Jap, except you're not a princess. You're a Jewish American prince. But in my territory, where I was sent to by the Rebbe, we had such Jews, New York Jews, escaping, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and he was saying, they weissen besser than me, and they know better than I. So this became a famous thing in this documentary. Anyway, so the first Shabbos that we came, I believe, Basha, was July, right? July. I think after Yud Beis Tammuz. I don't remember. It was July, August. So I'm 23. She's 22 or so. A young couple that ever sends out young couples to be Makara people, to bring Yiddishkeit to a place. There's a Baruch Yosef place where there was no orthodoxy. There was no frumkeit at all. There was one Reformed temple, one conservative place, and then a Reconstructionist place, and then Chabad. 19,000 Jews according to the Federation demographics. And my wife and I are sent there. We don't have children yet. We married just 4 months earlier. And our job is to make some Yiddishkeit. No, first Shabbos. Oh, so the way we got there is because there was a group of Bali Tshuva there who wanted a minyan for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. It's a long story, so I don't want to go into all the details, but basically they contacted me as a bocher, as a single, would I come to help them make a minyan? I said, sure. This is a Lubavitcher bocher, is at 22, 23, his dream. He's going out to a fertile territory. And they said they liked, I was there Rosh Hashanah, I took another bocher as a Baal Tefillah, so between him and I, we led the services, the davening, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and they really enjoyed it, and they said, we want to hire you. I said, there's one problem, I'm not married. In Chabad, the way it was, and I think it probably still is, you're not married, you're not yet, you need a wife, you need a companion. In fact, you could be whoever you are without a wife, gurnisht, you're a nothing. I'm just saying, I'm saying as far as the shlichus aspect. Everyone is an individual, everyone's important, or single or married, but I'm saying as far as the shlichus, the couple needs to, it's a couple. The women, learn from the Rebbe said, and on and on and on. Anyway, so we're there, we come out, the first Shabbos. It's literally 95 degrees outside. It's a July Shabbos in Northern California. It's boiling hot. And I'm walking with this black thing in 95, no shorts. People are jogging if there's anyone on the street, you know. And so the few chevra that brought me out and a few others, we had 9 people. And I say to myself, Chaim Dalfin, the Rebbe sent you to bring Yiddishkeit here. You're going to let the first Shabbos not be a minyan? There shouldn't be a minyan. It's a Kenneth Zayin. Can't be. So what does Chaim Dalfin do? He goes out with his talus. He leaves the 9 chevra they rented us a 4-bedroom house, the Balabatim, because that was the Chabad house. My wife and I, that's our house, but it's the Chabad house too. 4 bedrooms, big living room, beautiful kitchen. It was great. I go out and I start looking for a 10th person. There isn't anyone to be found in the streets. It's 11:30. No one's around. I start walking. And I walk and I walk. 4 or 5 houses down, I see someone under his car. And I go over to him. He was changing his oil. And I go over to him and I say, "Excuse me, sir, may I speak to you for a moment?" And he comes out, schmutzig, dirty, greased and all that. And he says, "Yes, how can I help you?" I said, "I'm your neighbor. I just moved in here last week. I'm your neighbor. And I'm Jewish, and we have a small synagogue here, and we need a 10th man to help us make a quorum, a minyan." He don't know what I'm talking about. So I say to him, "What is your name?" I remember his name, Mr. Andy Brown. Not Braun, Brown. Andy Brown. And you see, Ellie, you make believe you're Andy, and I'm Chaim Dalfin. I am Chaim Dalfin, right? And face to face, you're under the car, schmutzig, you're standing up. And then I say to him, "Are you Jewish?" And he says, "Yes." I say, "Good." I go like this. I start walking. He says, "Where are you taking me?" "Just relax, Andy. I'm not going to hurt you." He walks with me 4 houses down, and he helps make the minyan. I never saw him again at a minyan. Now, probably he didn't know anything. But the halacha is, I'm not going to go into now halachic proofs. If someone tells you they're Jewish and you don't have a reason to believe they're not Jewish, halachically, in Shulchan Aruch, you have to accept their testimony. And I believe if he said he's Jewish, because there was he's so far from Judaism, why would he say he's Jewish? The man didn't know anything. So he became my 10th man. What's my point? Reb Mendel Futterfah says, "You Jew, I Jew, tefillin." Now, just for another moment, and then we'll sing another niggin. Supposed to do that 15 minutes ago. What is the nakuda here? What is the common denominator between the Rashab in 1897 with R Michoel Bliner, Mendel Futterfah in 1963, and Chaim Dalfin in 1984? You know what the common denominator is? Submitting to the higher power. Submitting to the Ratzon Hashem, to the will of God. I always say, why is Rosh Hashanah 2 days? Yosef, why is Rosh Hashanah 2 days and Yom Kippur is only 1 day? Well, the answer is because the Gemara and Be'ah Gemara brings over there that the Chazal, they didn't know Sveika, the Yom, and there was the Shir Shal Yom. Your father will explain it. I don't want to go into it right now. It'll take more time. I have another explanation. Now, that's, of course, true. Very simple. Rosh Hashanah is about submitting to God. No one wants to submit. You're going to tell me what to do. You wish it. Husband and wife, really, you, me, I have it my way, you have it your way. Your teacher, your Rebbe. Oh, I want this. No, I want this. To submit, to give away, to give up is so difficult. Yom Kippur compared to Rosh Hashanah is easy. Forgive. Bang a little harder. I'll hate one, I'll hate two. Cry a little more. Daven a little more. You're in the ballpark. You're in. But to submit, and Chassidus, Chabad spends a lot of time. In fact, this connects it to the Rav. If you listen to, there's some tapes online of Rabbi Soloveitchik. I love the way he's Yiddish. His Yiddish is real Yiddish. You want to hear real Yiddish? You listen to Rabbi Soloveitchik. Famous. You know, the word for coronation is koronatia. That's the real Yiddish word with the Russian accent. So Rabbi Soloveitchik says, das ist die Koronatie von dem König. It's the coronation of the king. And he had his Hasidic Melamed in Kaslavich in 1913 who taught him what Rosh Hashanah is all about. To submit. It's a shvere malacha. It's a hard job. That's why you need 2 days, Yosef. It's not enough one day. To submit takes a long time. It takes 48 hours. You can't do it in 24 hours. Hopefully we do it in 48 hours. So what's the nakuda? What's the common denominator between all the 3 stories that I mentioned before? Is the submission to a higher power. And that's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. This interpretation and that interpretation are all gravy, but the thing itself is the submission to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you come to a point in your life, really, that you're ready and willing to submit, things will fall into place. Everything will fall into place. You won't have questions on God. You won't have questions on your teachers. And you won't have questions on your parents. Today there's a big issue with the parents. My father, my mother, I need therapy for that. Submit to God and you won't have any issues. It doesn't mean that everything your father did or your mother did was exactly ay. Okay? But nevertheless, the bitul ha'adam, the submission of man, of the Yid to a higher cause, to the Eibishter, that will direct you in the right way wherever you are, wherever you go, wherever you end up. And that includes your children and your grandchildren. It all falls into place. L'chaim, l'chaim. No, noch ein Niggen, Osher. Take it off.